and she said that the State Department was doing all it could to make sure it wouldn't happen again, but it does raise questions about how this is going to impact American diplomacy in the future.
So what did she say about that? What did she say about possible diplomatic relations?
Well, I asked her whether she thought any world leader or any politician would ever speak openly again to her or to any of her diplomats. And she said leaders around the world understood that this was a part of diplomacy, that this was a difficult world in which she and other world leaders were operating, and that no slight was intended. She also jokingly said something that she's said before already, that one of her counterparts joked and said, don't worry, you should see what we say about you. It doesn't make it go away, but she seems to be fairly confident that the Obama administration and the State Department will be able to work beyond this challenge, because she believes that she has a good relationship with world leaders and that it will be possible to overcome this. But there's certainly some difficult weeks and perhaps even months ahead.
Kim Carter speaking to my colleague Jackie Leonard.
The BBC has a special day of coverage today on the effects of the latest WikiLeaks disclosures. Our correspondents around the world have been assessing what the lasting impact may be in their region. Some of the revelations threw new light on the multi-layered nature of Pakistan's sensitive relations with the United States. From Islamabad, here's Ali Makboul.
Pakistanis have had lots to digest thanks to WikiLeaks. There were revelations that Pakistan's army chief thought of pushing President Zardari out of office, forcing him into exile, and that the country's leaders had lied to its public. On one hand, officials have all been saying they didn't want Americans carrying out drone missile strikes against militants on Pakistani soil. The leaks show in private they supported the strategy. They also allowed American soldiers on the ground in the tribal areas, something they had said wasn't happening. It's gone down badly on the Pakistani street.
It's so embarrassing. Our politicians should all die of shame. They claim they fought democracy, but they'll do things against the public's interest and behind our backs.
Politicians here are really embarrassed if they have any self-respect, but they don't. They are the slaves of America, and they don't have any shame.
But the concerns of Western diplomats were also about the leaks, particularly about Pakistan's atomic weapons program. Years of innocence could get hold of enough nuclear material to make a bomb. The former executive head of the Pakistan Air Force, Shahzad Chaudhry, was one of those insisting the concerns were unfounded.
Pakistani military Pakistani government and Pakistani Supreme
In terms of the relationship between Pakistan and the Western allies, was telling Cable before the US ambassador in Islamabad and Kazakhstan said in spite of the economic restrictions thrown in the country, Pakistan wanted to outfits and broadcast some of Washington's enemies and the Afghan Taliban.
Ali Makboul there in Islamabad, and Stephen Samuel will be hosting a special program debating the effect of the leaks at WikiLeaks, open secret at 19:30 GMT here on the BBC World Service. And you can see BBC coverage of the leaked documents at bbc.com/WikiLeaks.
Now it's been described as the biggest, simplest scam against Airbus's flagship ship, the A380. Now a new report by Australian officials into what's happening on the Qantas flight last month, when one of the aircraft's engines exploded, suggesting the incident was even more serious than they initially thought. Johnny Holmes.
The Australian Transport Safety Bureau found that, as suspected, an oil leak in one of the aircraft's Rolls-Royce engines was the likely cause of the explosion. Surely more alarming is the picture it paints of a cascade of problems that followed, threatening to bring the plane, with more than 450 people on board, out of the sky. It appears that the blast caused debris to punch holes through the wing, which in turn knocked out electronics, leading to multiple system errors. The investigation says that the 5 experienced pilots were faced with a flood of warning messages in the cockpit, indicating that an engine was overheating, that the auto-land facility was disabled, fire extinguishers were malfunctioning, and that their satellite systems had gone offline. Furthermore, they were leaking large amounts of fuel, causing the plane's centre of gravity to change, making it difficult to fly. Because of all this, the report concludes, the plane would not have made it to Singapore Airport had it not been for what it calls the focused and effective actions of the crew. Even then, they came to a halt just 150 meters before the end of the runway. 2 of Qantas's 6 A380s are now flying again after having their engines replaced, but the company is preparing to take legal action against Rolls-Royce following the incident.
Johnny Hogg reporting.
At the height of Pakistan's floods last August, the BBC reported on a baby who was born by the roadside in the middle of the chaos in Sindh province. Baby Samina seemed close to death back then. Now our correspondent Jill McGivering has gone back to Sindh to find out what's happened to Samina and her family.
I'm picking my way along a dirt track covered in straw, following Samina's father, Gul Khan. He's taking me back to what remains of their home. And I'm just coming into it now. It's basically, well, pretty much an open space with a few walls still standing and a lot of family members all crowded round, including a lot of small children. Oh, hello, assalamu alaikum. And here's Samina's mum. Hi, and that's Samina. Samina. She looks a completely different baby. I mean, when I saw Samina last, she was just a few days old. She was very still, very tiny, and I really didn't think she was going to make it. Now she's sitting up and being passed from arm to arm, and looks full of life. Madam, can you show me what damage was done in the floods? She's shown me one of the main rooms of the house and shown me where they tried to repair. Basically, you can just see the first maybe metre of bricks was intact, but on top of that they've had to rebuild, and a new roof as well. Samina's mum is showing me the area where she and the baby are sleeping. Again, it's pretty much open to the elements. They've got one wall behind them, but all the rest of the area they've just tried to cover around with some sacking that they've hung. But it's getting very cold at nights here. It can't be very much protection. Are you worried about what will happen during the winter when it gets cold? She says it's a difficulty because there are more people in the family than there are blankets, so they have to try and make a decision about who gets the blanket at night. And obviously as it gets colder, that's going to become more difficult. What compensation have you had from the government? Gul Khan is saying that of course they got food and support when they were in the actual relief camp when the floods first happened. But since they've come back to their village, they've had absolutely nothing. They said everything they've had to provide for themselves. They've had no food and no cash compensation. It's been wonderful for me to have the chance to catch up with baby Samina and her family. Although they're back in their own home now and starting to try to rebuild, there are clearly a lot of challenges ahead. So keeping the family well and fed through Samina's first year is clearly going to be quite difficult.
Jill McGivering reporting there from Sindh. Well, you're listening to World Briefing from the BBC with Tinku Ray in Delhi and Nkem Ifejika in London.
BBC.
Can we hang giant mirrors in space?
40 years from now,
Can we make clouds whiter?
the problems currently affecting our planet could be a whole lot worse.
Can the oceans feed the world?
Big problems like climate change and food shortages need big solutions. The BBC looks at some of the scientific solutions being explored today that could save our planet tomorrow.
Can overpopulation, can extinction, does science have the answers?
2050, An Earth Odyssey. Online from the 23rd of December at bbcworldservice.com.
We want the news from your dreams to create a unique nightly newspaper. To become part of our Nightly Express, go to bbcworldservice.com/writer.
BBC CBC.
You're with the BBC. Coming up on Outlook after the news, the captain of the Afghan women's national football team on her fight to play the beautiful game. Also the former riot squad officer on his past in apartheid-era Soweto. And a 71-year-old American with dementia who's battled his condition to get a college degree and write a book. That's all coming up on Outlook after the news.
BBC News with Fiona MacDonald. Officials from Kenya's finance ministry have estimated that up to a third of the national budget has been swallowed up by corruption, about $4 billion a year. A BBC correspondent in Nairobi says that what will surprise many Kenyans is not the revelation itself, but the fact that it comes from such a high-ranking source. The Constitutional Council in Ivory Coast has declared President Laurent Gbagbo the winner of Sunday's presidential election runoff, with 51% of the vote. The council, led by a close ally of Mr Gbagbo, overruled an announcement by the Election Commission on Thursday that the opposition candidate Alassane Ouattara had won. Nigerian troops are continuing to raid 3 militant camps in the oil-producing Niger Delta in the search for a gang leader accused of armed robberies and kidnappings. Some reports say as many as 150 people, including civilians, have been killed in the operation. An international effort is underway to help Israel fight the huge forest fire that's burning out of control in the north. Around a dozen countries have either sent or promised special aircraft and teams of firefighters to tackle the blaze, which has displaced 15,000 people and killed at least 41. The Spanish government has approved a new round of austerity measures designed to cut its budget deficit and soothe anxious markets. There are fears that if Spain were to need a bailout, it would dwarf the sums required to rescue Greece and the Republic of Ireland. There's been a small but unexpected increase in unemployment in the United States, contrasting with recent indications that the economy may be staging a recovery. And we've just heard that President Obama has landed in Afghanistan for a surprise visit. He's expected to speak to American troops during the trip and meet the Afghan President, Hamid Karzai, as well as the US Commander, General David Petraeus. BBC News.
Hello and welcome to Outlook from the BBC World Service. I'm Lucy Ash with more extraordinary personal stories from around the world. Today, the captain of Afghanistan's female football team has faced prejudice and threats from the Taliban, but now she and her players are off to take part in their first international tournament. Also, an officer from South Africa's apartheid-era riot police talks candidly about his old job, and the American pensioner who's fought against Alzheimer's disease by getting a college degree. But first, Khalida Popal has faced more than her share of difficulties in her pursuit of the beautiful game. As captain of the Afghan women's national football team, she's been publicly reviled for her determination to play. She's also been exposed to the very real threat of reprisals from the Taliban. But 3 times a week, she and her teammates ignore insults in the street as they go to practice. Sadly, the only place they can play safely is inside the international military compound in Kabul. Afghanistan's first female clubs were set up in 2004, and in 2006 a national team was formed. Since then, Khalida has become team captain as well as head of the country's women's football committee. And next week, Khalida and her team are competing in their first ever international tournament in Bangladesh, where they'll play against other South Asian teams. When I spoke to her on the line from Kabul, she told me about the moment she discovered she'd been picked for the national team.
I was very happy. I was just like crying because that was my big wish, and I was very happy that I selected as a national player in national team.
And what made you want to play? I mean, how do you feel when you're running down the football pitch? What kind of feeling does it give you, and why did it appeal to you?
As you know, the women's have, especially girls, have lots of problems in the society, and so when I go inside of a football field, I just forget everything, all tension, all sadness. When I am playing football, I am enjoying football. I love football.
And what about your family? Are your family strict Muslims, and how supportive were they of you?
I belong to Pashtun family. At the beginning they had problems, especially my father and my brothers. But only my mom was encouraging me, because my mom was my sport teacher.
Your mom taught you sport?
Yes, she's a teacher in school. So she encouraged me to play football, and I was in her club. Then she said to my father and my brothers, she said that